Juliet? Our black belts, Kunyat? Jimmy, Kunyat? Chumbi? Front stance? Who's? Us! Nice and easy. Take it easy on yourselves out there. Straight up front stretch kick. Here we go. Ready? Who's? 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 Change stance. Who's? Us. Hands up on the leg. Who's? 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 Change stance. Who's? Us. Like Michael Lindsay in the upstairs dojo. Yeah, let's see him. Hands up, inside, outside stretch kick, ready. Who's? 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 Change stance. Who's? Us. I like the Heath dojo. Looks pretty good down there. With new little joinees. Welcome. Hands up. So they do outside or no?
It's inside to out with the left.
Okay, inside, outside. Keep going. Who's? 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 Change stance. Who's? Us. Hand out, thumb tucks down, outside to inside, right leg. Who's? 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 Change stance. Who's? Us. Other side. Hand out, thumb tucked down. Who's? 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 Paro? Show. Gloria, is that a new dojo? Looks like a great dojo in there. Look at that. Very nice, yeah. Hope everyone's doing well, had a good week. I know that each of these weeks are more and more stressful that we don't get together, but it's important for us to have time together, at least on the weekends. I know that our re-engagement team has been working diligently to try to figure out when's the safest and best time to bring us back together at the center. And because of the recent COVID advances here in the state, it's kind of at a peak now and getting higher and higher. So we're looking for that to plateau and fall off. And as we begin to show a decline, we feel that it's safe, the team will engage us at the center. In the meantime, we're going to be looking at adding another Zoom class so that we can have 2 classes per week. We're looking at engaging our underranked folks that have been conspicuously absent for the most part for this group. Congratulations of those of you who are underranked that are here on the Zoom. So thank you. But we're going to have a focus session another day of the week, and our team is working out what must be the most advantageous day to do that, and then how to reach out to include other people in our school so that we can have breakout sessions so that each group can have their independent learning along their own ranks. So that's what we're looking to do. So we're going to put ourselves in there for the long haul, and we'll be part of this for a while with our Zooms. So thank you for your patience. Our training is going to be as it is for all of us. It's a lifelong training. This is not a 6-week course. This is a lifelong pursuit. So it has to be self-motivated. You have to be independent learners. You have to keep working on your own and working on yourself. Very, very important to do that. So this is how we do it. This is how we do it every week. We've had a dialogue about recent social unrest in regard to racial disparity, white privilege, concerns around bias, etc. And I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit to speak about this in a different way. I want to go back to looking at our, when we did put them out there, our societal breakdowns. We talked at them 3 of the 10 most important societal breakdowns. They became the topics of our camp for a number of years, if not continuously. We decided to move it from the negative, to take away from breakdowns, to create societal opportunities so that things that we can work out as an opportunity to make impact in our society. One of those listed was prejudice. And prejudice carries with it a significant number of concerns that actually fold into a lot of what we're doing now in regard to looking at implicit bias and prejudice and other things. But this prejudice actually, if you remember, those of you who are black belts that have been around for a long time, as I was walking with Sabanam Lisa today, I said, do you remember the story of the black dog? She laughed out loud and said that if I ever don't know that story, you need to admit me to the hospital because something's majorly wrong. Because that was something that we basically pounded in our heads over a period of the 90s all the way through 2000s in regard to the black dog story. Raise your hand if you have not heard the black dog story. Good, okay, so it's a pretty common concept. When looking at the sources of conflict, and Dr. Webster Doyle talked to us a lot about what is it that we do instead of trying to create peace in our environment, but more importantly, learn to understand what prevents peace in our environment. It's that upstream thinking that we talked about from last class. It's running upstream to save the kids from being thrown into the water instead of trying to save them so that we're actually preventing the problem. So Dr. Terence Webster Doyle has brought this to us a number of years ago. He says, we need to be thinking to help understand what prevents peace. Then he talked to us about this. He said that every one of us, each of us, are unique. We're our own individuals. We're our own special people, and we think and act in different ways. And the reason why we are is that when we're born, we're like a piece of clay, and then multiple things around us carve us into the individual you are today. And those things would be like the family you grew up in, the area of the world that you were raised in, the kind of schooling and education that you got, the type of faith, religion that you followed, the friends that you've had, the parents that have been around you, and the experiences in life that you've endured. All of these chisel away on this clay to create who you are today. In this entire concept, Dr. Webster Doyle called it psychosocial conditioning. So in other words, we are psychosocial, so in other words, psychologically and socially conditioned to think and act in a certain way. So the way that we look at the world comes from our own psychosocial conditioning. The way that people look at us comes from their psychosocial conditioning. So that concept means is that all of us have some sense of understanding of where we came from. And that understanding where we came from makes us, in some easy situations, react because we're conditioned to do so. Now, if you're driving along in the car and all of a sudden you see a red light come up, you immediately are conditioned to hit the brake. That's what happens. And you're conditioned to react that way. That's because you had training to do so and had experiences that may have, in fact, created you to see the consequences of not stopping and getting in an accident, or seen people that had done that, or heard about what can happen. So that now you think and act in a way that's almost reflexive. But Dr. Terence Webster Doyle talked to us about, well, those things that prevent peace, is that the same sort of reflexive thinking actually comes about in how we view other people. And how we view other people is that oftentimes people that are different from us and different from the psychosocial conditioning and where we grew up and the people that were surrounding us and the educational timing around them and the families that we came from, if people look a little different from us, then there's an inherent prejudgment that they're different. And that anything that is an inherent prejudgment is called prejudice. Prejudice. So there's not a person on this call or on this Zoom that's not prejudiced. I'm telling you that you are. You are. And you'll recognize that you are prejudiced because the way you think and act makes you, it comes from how you grew up and the influences on your life that make you respond. We talked about the police officers before that are prejudiced about certain people that are, when they enter into an action. It may be how they look, it may be how they act, it might be the context of how they communicate that will make their hair on the neck rise up and their ears go up and listening to expect a problem. They were trained to do that. As a doctor, when I'm going in and I can see certain symptoms, I'm trained to think and act that that's what's going on behind the scenes because of the way I was trained and acted. But we have to understand that sometimes is that the vernacular of what we're talking about today, if I said to you, how many of you are racist? How many would raise your hand? Well, that's because we don't equate racism, because that's the extreme in our minds, is that racism to us is an overt negative connotation of hate, where prejudice, even though it may create the early forms of racism, is a form of individualization that's created for a protective nature or an advantage. That's what happens. And so what I'm getting at today is that instead of us focusing on, let's focus on curing racism because that's what we need to do. Or let's look at these new things called white prejudice, which in fact, the language itself actually creates hard feelings in some of us because they don't understand the intent behind the communication. And the reason they listen for it and it creates hard feelings is because of their own psychosocial conditioning on how they grew up and how they were thought and how they experienced life, because they don't think that term should be that way. Even the concept of Black Lives Matter, people read that because of their own psychosocial conditioning and immediately say, well, all lives matter. And maybe don't understand that all lives matter, but Black lives matter too. And that's what they're trying to get across. So we have to recognize in of ourselves that this all comes from the concept of the black dog. And Dr. Terence Webster Doyle tells a little story of a little girl who was out on a walk with her mother and went up to pet a little black dog. And the little black dog snapped at her and bit her on the hand, and it created a lot of pain, which required her to get stitches. And as a little girl, she then was always afraid of going near any dogs. whether they're black dogs or not. But she was afraid of dogs because in her mind and her experience, it was such a traumatic experience that it basically emblazons itself on her psyche for this emotional memory. So it's no longer rational. It's now part of the amygdala, and what we're doing is speaking out of emotion and acting out of emotion. So even though rational folks would say, well, of course all dogs don't bite, but if you're bitten by a dog, it goes into your emotional memory. You're always going to be afraid. You're going to be afraid of that situation. And then you're going to conclude that all black dogs, and dogs in general, are mean and bite. And then when you grow up as a little girl and you're now into the childbearing age and you have your own child, the first thing you teach your child is, because of your belief and your experiences, don't go near dogs because they bite. And I was bitten by a dog when I was a little girl. And then that little girl, generation after generation, creates this thing that is social conditioning that creates a problem. So what we're thinking and acting around is a concept of the black dog, is that when it gets lodged into a certain part of your brain, if it creates an emotion, it takes away, it's the elephant on the rider. The elephant takes off. It doesn't matter what kind of rational thinking you might have about this doesn't make sense, but the emotions take off and it becomes really hard to have conversation and dialogue about the concepts of all the things we've been talking about is really, really difficult for a lot of us because of the way we're psychosocially conditioned. We don't want to hurt people's feelings. We don't want to say the wrong thing, even though this is what we believe. And what it's time for is to recognize that we're just simply talking about, do we have prejudice? Do we recognize that? We're not talking about anything other than that right now. And ultimately what we'd like to be able is a system, because the Center for Humane Living is actually trying to look at opportunities to eliminate this concept of prejudice and its consequences to certain social status of people, and maybe elevate other people. That's what we want to do next, is that how can we help elevate and understand the importance of diversity and inclusion in our school, in our organizations, in our society, to understand the value of the integration, the value of the diversity, the value of the inclusion. And right now, we're not trying to do that just yet, because like anything, like leadership or training, you need to start here. You need to understand your own facts. Do you have these prejudices? And I'm going to tell you, you do. And they're not hateful. They're not that racist connotation of hate, but they may offer differences of thinking that might change how you might interact. And you might not even recognize it because it's been your world. And everything about your world is normal for you. And stepping outside of that is a little bit difficult. And it's difficult to have those conversations. So at this point, I just wanted to open up a little bit for a little bit more conversation. I know we've been focusing on these areas quite a bit because of the current social circumstances. And I'm focused on it more on the fact because as martial artists that are for peace, martial artists that are doing what they can to prevent that which allows peace. So we're trying to find what prevents peace. That's what we do. So most of that comes from our own thinking, because our thinking then results in actions. So we want to start first with our own thinking, and then collectively look at how we might impact society in a way, little by little. Now, we also have a group as part of the Center for Humane Living, many of you were on the call, that are looking at how we might have these dialogues and how these dialogues might be facilitated with smaller groups instead of a large group like this. And I think that's the smart move, is that what we'll begin to do is to take people in smaller groups to have conversations and then come back and relay those conversations to the group at whole, because it's really not practical to have 50 people make comment in the time period that we have, because we want to do training as well. So that's coming. We have a group that's looking at that. We have a group that's looking at how we might make impact in elevating an understanding of how our prejudice may affect a social circumstance that we're involved with. So there is no blame here. There is no ill intent. And I just want to begin to change the conversation a little bit. Is how's the black dog affected you? How is that? What types of things in your life have you grown up with that are normal that you tend to move in that direction when given the natural choice? It's not you're a bad person. It's not that you're making the wrong decisions. It's just that it's a matter of being aware of it. The awareness is the first stage of helping to understand where this might be coming from. And I'm not saying that this person is privileged or that person is privileged. I think that what we have to understand is that how our society views that, and how our society is also looking at it from a perspective of trying to understand how to elevate and not suppress other groups by saying one group we need to do this, the other groups say, well, what about us? And it's all of these scenarios where we need to begin to look at, you know, we all have red blood. We're all from humanity. We're all one family. And we need to be able to recognize what prevents the peace around us. So I'll give you time for thought about that. Let's train a little bit. And as we come back towards the end, we'll have some conversation about how we might impact this a little further. I'm interested in the comments, and there's no judgment on this. It's, we learn from when you speak to us, and in particular younger people. I want you to speak and just tell us your thoughts and feelings about this concept of prejudgment. Not anything where it has a negative connotation that creates an emotion in you with the word of racism or privilege, and if those create an emotion for you, that emotion takes over. So let's just talk about how the black dog affects all of us. So come to the middle of the room, Juliet, Juliet, Jumbi. Front stance, oos.
Us.
Fighting stance, oos.
Us.
Good. Stretch out a little bit. Look a little stiff there, little Dom. Front snap kick. Ready? Oos. Oos. Snap it on back. Come right back to your position. Don't move across the floor. Just stay right where you are. Snap it out. Bring it right back. Ready? Oos. Oos. Keep your shoulders down, hands down, upper body's quiet. Ball of the foot, solar plexus height. Ready? Oos. Got to keep your hands in front of your face. Suze. Oos. Oos. Carter, keep your hands up. Oos. 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 Enosh and Bernice, can you move the camera down so I can see more than the balloons? Better, thank you. Oos. 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 Change stance. Oos.
Us.
Other leg. Oos. Snap it out. Mom Belter's in there. Snap out. Oos. Yep. Oos. Don't wander your eyes, Suze. Keep looking forward. Look right at the camera. I see you. Oos. Nice. Oos. Oos. Right from there. Stay right in your spot. Lead leg roundhouse, right leg. Lead leg roundhouse, right leg. Just pick it up and throw it and put it back down. Oos. Now don't turn. Just pick up that front leg and just throw it right there. Oos. Oos. Angel, don't move your feet. Just stand there. Oos. Yep. Turn your hips over. Hit the ball, the top of your foot on your target. Hips got to go through. Oos. Yes. Oos. Nice, Sarah. Oos. Change stance. Oos.
Us.
Roundhouse, just standing roundhouse. Somebody's coming in on you and you're throwing this right to the solar plexus. Ready? Oos. 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 Keep your hands up. Loose. Don't bring them down when you kick. Put them by your face. Loose. Loose. Change stance. Loose.
Us.
Everybody face the same direction. Okay, lead leg side. Just pick it up and throw it. I want to take your lead arm and pull it across the front of your body so that your heel hits the target right from where you are. Someone is charging you. You just pick up that foot and throw that side kick right into their ribs. Hit their floating rib. Ready? Loose. 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 Nice, Astrid. Loose. 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 Front leg. Kick with the front leg, Suze. You're kicking with the back leg. Change stance. Loose.
Us.
I just used the front leg. Side kick. Loose. Hit with your heel. Bring your right elbow all the way to your belt knot. Bring your right elbow to your belt knot when you kick. Ready? Loose. Yeah. Move your shoulders too. Reach over. Loose. 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 Okay, right from there. Spinning back kick, throw it and return to position. Spinning back kick, throw it and return to the same position you're in. Ready? Loose. Loose. Nice. Loose. Loose. Okay, change stance. Loose.
Us.
Spinning back kick with the left leg. Loose. Loose. Keep your hands up. Loose. You get dizzy, Astrid. Loose. Burrow. Show. Check out your legs. Not bad. A little rusty, but not bad. Okay, fighting stance.
Us.
Back fist reverse punch, right from where you are. Back fist reverse punch. Back fist reverse punch. Ready? Real fast. Here we go. Loose. Faster than that, Tanner. Faster than that. Speeding bullet fast. Loose. 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 Nice, Lindsay. Faster than Michael. I like that. Loose. Loose. Nations look like a kata team there. All in sync. I love it. I love it. Got a little music and Mulan in the background. We got a musical kata just with this technique. It's beautiful. Here we go. Some more. Loose. 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 Throw it hard. Okay, change stance. Loose.
Us.
Other side. Loose. Rotate that back heel up. Loose. Don't lean over. Keep your body straight up and down. Don't lean forward. Loose. 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 Nice, Anash. Bernice, nice. You guys look good down there. You're at the bottom of my screen. That's why I say down there. Loose. Look at that. Nice and powerful. Love it. Loose. Loose. Look at the heat. All in sync. I love it. Loose. Not bad. Oro. Show. Very nice. Any birthdays today? No birthdays? No hands raised? Astrid's baby. Bring that baby over, Astrid. Michael, take us off mute so we can all sing to this baby. You ready?
No.
All right, here we go, Astrid.
Morning.
What? Astrid, tell us the baby's name.
Isabel.
Isabel. Okay, so everyone's gonna sing happy birthday to Isabel. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. All right. Like she's almost ready for a dobak. I can see it. Yeah. Very nice. When she's at class, she gets hours for being in class, right?
Yeah.
Very nice.
I got her on the participation list, so we're good.
Yeah. Very nice. Okay. Back to the center of your room. Let's do some kata. We're gonna run this kata, and as soon as you get to a kata that you don't know, you just keep repeating the ones that you do know. So when you get to the ones that, as many as you can go, we're gonna, you might recognize that we're just kind of, it's always a review. So our classes that we're gonna have, the next class that we do on Zoom is gonna be broken into sessions so we can make sure that we're continuing to advance this. So people are learning more and doing more rather than just repeating all the time. But honestly, getting better and better at your kata just makes learning the new one even that much more easy, because the technique is really what it's about in terms of making you forward. So we're gonna start off at the beginning with your kata, and then you continue the kata as far as you can go. And you just keep doing it. If you only know number one, you're gonna do number one a lot of times. But stay clear of the other people in your room. So make sure you're safe, you don't knock things over, you don't smack one of your loved ones. And hi, Zoe. See you there? Yeah. Yeah, I see you, Zoe. Wake up. There you are. All right. Go back to your room. Chumbi. Kata number 1. Oos. Baro. Baro. Show. Chumbi. Kata number 2. Oos. Baro. Show. Chumbi. Kata number 3. Oos. Baro. Sho, 준비. 4. Think of the floor underneath your feet as you're doing this kata. Feel the texture under your feet. Be where you are. Be grounded as you do kata 4. 준비. Kata 4. Us. Oro. Show. Enosh and Bernice, you guys look awesome. Nice, powerful technique. You guys look strong. Nice work. 준비. Kata 5. Ready? Us. Baro. Show. Kata 6. Keep going with the kata that you're most comfortable with if this is getting too many. Kata 6. Us. Baro. Show. Good job. Good job, Meghana. Mohan, nice work. Kata 7. 준비. Us. Baro. Show. 준비. Kata 8. Us. Sandy, forget? Baro. Okay. Basai. Basai Chumbi. All black belts do Basai if you can. Remember, if you don't, no big deal. Goose.
Us. Us.
Baro. Show. Good job. Keep practicing. You don't keep going over them, you're going to forget these. These are something that you just kind of have to be kind of like over and over and over again. Keep practicing them. Good job, everybody. Continue moving through that. Use your kata as your stress reliever. Don't just run through your kata because you're having to think through that. Sometimes you're having trouble going to sleep. I actually think through my kata, pretending like I'm doing it in my sleep and watching myself go through it. Puts me right out, actually, because I'm so boring. But I enjoy it. It's actually good. It puts me away from what I'm thinking about and forces my thinking to go somewhere else other than with the day's activities that push me to start to think about. And I can't shut the brain off sometimes when I'm trying to sleep because it keeps trying to solve the problems of the day and the issues and circumstances of the day. But if I force myself to kind of pretend to go through my kata, then my mind relaxes when I'm doing it. And all I'm thinking about is, you know, my positioning and my movement and what I'm seeing in my own room and on my own mind, and allows me to go through the kata. And it brings a sense of relaxation and peace. Try that for yourselves. If you have another person there that you can do this with, or a persons, stand up and reach, face each other. Isabel and Lisa and I face each other. So what I want you to get practiced again with what's the first move, and someone can just do it. What's the first move when someone grabs you by the throat? What do? Hands up, okay? So hands up. So I'm grabbing you by the throat. Hands up. What that, now you got to do the hands up in a way that doesn't look like you're aggressively trying to attack them, because the intent of the hands up is wait. I'm sorry. Peaceful. Whoa. This means peaceful. You don't do hands up like this or hands up like this or show another finger. When your hands are up like this, okay? And you have to be like this and saying, because this is universal. Hey, stop, open-handed, okay? Now the open-handed, and the hands have to go up where the elbows are above the shoulder, because the elbows above the shoulder have to come down, and that's where the momentum, if they're here, they have to come up and down, which you lose the momentum. So you want to stretch them up almost like it's a touchdown, but this way. Wait, no. You see my hands don't look too aggressive, but I'm saying stop. They're not like Sawara arms. They're higher, see? Hands go up, because this part of it is important, and you don't want to have to go from here up and down. So the hands are up. So hands are up here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my weight, and I just simply come here and hold both hands. Both hands. So back. So notice that I turn my body. I turn my body and caught both arms underneath my arm. And I pin them, and I can even hold it right here. So they're grabbing, the more they grab, they cannot let go. Now, as they begin to try to get out, what they do is pull. So they pull, what they're doing is they're just helping you throw that elbow into anything that you see on them, essentially. you like to pick a target, a temple, white bone, great bone, carotid, any of those plexus are fine. They turn, aim right straight down the middle to the larynx. All of those are areas of striking that you would see. Now, what if they're really tall and it's a smaller person and I'm here and she does that and I'm trying to throw the elbow and the elbow's not there. She doesn't have it, so you have to put out the extension and throw out that hammer fist, and the hammer fist comes out. So it's kind of like the extension ladder for the fire department. Even if you can't reach, what it does is that right here, I can't get to them, I extend it to reach. And so it's coming, your whole body turns, and whole body unwinds. And you don't lock out your arm when you turn. Because if you turn and lock out your arm, when you hit resistance, actually it puts joint pain and joint pressure. And what you have to do, if they hit this other side or grab on this side to grab you and hit it, they break your arm as you strike them. So when somebody's doing that to me, I'm doing this. And I'm taking it right down. And what I'm doing is I'm straightening their arm and breaking their arm when they do that. So the point of that is that when you bend the arm, you keep the arm bent, so it's not locked out straight. It's not locked out straight like that, it's bent. And when it's bent, these muscles protect that joint. But if you lock it out, the muscles are soft. As soon as you bend it, they engage. And what they're doing, they're engaging is protecting that joint. So you do not lock it straight out. You keep it bent a little bit as you make the strike. So take your opponent right now, go ahead and grab out of the throat, use your weight to come down, and then as they start to pull out, you come back and you strike them. So use your opponent. If you don't have an opponent, use the air and practice how it's going to look in the air, okay? Do 3 from each side. Okay, you don't want to turn all the way over. You want to keep your shoulder down. Do it again. So now you strike here. Okay, so you don't want to open up. This is your strike. If you open this way, then you're open for me to strike you. Okay. My head. So just stay away from it. Right. Okay. Yeah. Now to pick a different target this time. A different target, like my neck. There you go. Okay. So you'll think. Boom, boom, boom.
Here or not.
Yeah. Uh-oh. What happened here? Okay. All right, everybody get a shot at that? Good. Whole concept of this is to remember, it's so simple when we put our hands up for every technique that we do. But it's not just putting our hands up like this, is it, Angel? We put our hands up like this, we lose the ability to use the downward momentum of gravity that we bring up by having here. The power that we have bringing our elbow to our own body is way more stronger than bringing our elbow away from our body. So we want to use that strength, bring everything to our center. So we have a center called the datien. The datien is here. It's about maybe 3 finger breaths below the belly button. That's the center. That's your energy point. And everything you're actually doing is you're bringing it to your energy point. It's not just down. It's actually, as you see it, I'm coming here. I'm coming to my energy point all the time. And then I'm coming from my energy point when I strike. And it's kind of unwinding. It's all the waist work. It's not just this. Because although that might be effective if you're a big person and strong, it's not so effective if you're a little person and don't have a whole lot of muscle mass. But this is effective when you take your whole body weight come down and your whole body weight turning. Regardless, it's that force of that spin that creates the entirety. Now be cautious about overspinning and moving beyond your means. So don't open up. Lisa would open up this way and then turn open to me if I miss. So if I duck my head back, and she misses me, she's wide open. So it's analogous to jumping off the cliff, because now you're wide open for a headbutt or another strike from the other person. So stay down, strike here. Don't strike and miss and come out. Okay, so you're gonna strike, boom, come back into your protective area. Sound good? Good, fantastic. Okay, very nice. Can I ask everybody to come off mute, move up to their microphones, and we'll address a couple of comments. Okay, thoughts or comments about our conversation? Everybody's still on mute, I think. If you have something, unmute yourself, raise your hand, unmute yourself, I'll call on you so that we don't have too many people talking at the same time. Angel, what do you think about all this going on? Put your mute off, take your mute off. Yeah, unmute yourself. We're interested in what you have to say, Angel. I think you're still, I can't hear you.
No, we should be able to hear him.
Angel, what are your thoughts about what's going on in the world? And not right or wrong or anything, just kind of what you're thinking. Good, bad, indifferent. Can't hear. Turn your volume up maybe, huh? Okay, volume's already up. Any idea, Michael, why we can't hear him?
It must be some sort of microphone issue.
Sorry, Angel. Looked like you said bad. That's why I made your face. All right, we'll see if we can get that worked out, but we want to take the time for people to have comment. You know, it's our next generation that is going to make the difference. All of us old folks are going to be gone. So our next generation, so our young people, they're going to make the difference. Sue family, can you talk to us about what you think is going on in the world? What your thoughts are? What are you guys talking about? What's going on?
I think that there's coronavirus.
Yeah. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
How are you managing all that? If it's scary, what are you doing to manage that scariness?
We just stay at home and
Wash your hands. Yeah. But isn't it hard being away from your friends
yeah.
and going outside and going to restaurants and stores? Isn't that hard to stay in?
Yeah.
No, we all feel that. So do you have any advice for any of the other people of how to deal with that?
Try not to go outside that much.
Yeah. But it makes you sad, doesn't it? Does it make you sad that you can't go out?
Yeah.
So what advice do you have to manage being sad for not being able to go out?
You can do fun activities with your family.
Yeah. Puzzles and things like that. We have a lot of people that are putting together, like nations, put together these gazillion piece puzzles, right? Like several thousand pieces of the entire world. And you have lay them out across the floor and then put the pieces together. I said, that's what the nations are doing. They're putting together puzzles and stuff at home, which is really a great activity for a family. Well, thank you, Sue family. Appreciate your input. Anybody else have comment? Michael?
I just had a comment just too, because I think with everything going on and all the talk of, prejudice and social conditioning, I think it's, really important to also keep in mind that there's a difference between prejudice and social conditioning, and also listening to that inner voice that's telling you something's wrong. I think as martial artists, we have to understand the difference of that so that we don't over rationalize and get ourselves into dangerous situations. And so I think this is a really vulnerable time for a lot of people, because, when you're walking down the street and you feel that gut feeling of I'm in a bad situation, I feel like with everything going on, we're really prone to rationalize it and then put ourselves in a more serious situation that our body and our innate feeling is trying to dissuade us from. So I just thought that, after hearing all this stuff through the week, just wanted to bring that up too, because I think there's a big key difference to that. And I think sometimes, I don't want people to blend those two things together, because they're very different.
They are, and that's the gift of fear. And that gift of fear is what helps protect us. It's an inner feeling. It's a survival technique. I mean, I think innate in all of us, it kind of evolved, an evolutionary issue of having senses of prejudgment that are innate. If, for example, if we go out and we see a charging elephant, we get out of the way, even though we've not experienced getting run over by an elephant before. We know that that's something that's going to jeopardize our survival. And so we're going to have prejudgment about not going in an elephant patch anymore after that. So that we innately are conditioned to be protective. So everyone has that. And it's that inside gut feeling that keeps you protected that is actually a prejudice. It is actually a feeling that, it comes from, a sense of trying to protect you. And there's that fine line between it being irrational emotion and rational emotion. And what Michael's saying is it's really, really important not to blow off that feeling, because that feeling is protective. It's it's a gift actually that is part of our survival mechanism. And it's their part of the primitive brain response that senses danger. And it tells you that, and it gives you that feeling, that sense that's called the gift of fear. I can't remember his name, Gavin, somebody, wrote the book, The Gift of Fear, which is actually a fabulous book to pick up and read if you haven't yet as a martial artist. And it accentuates in great detail, story after story of evidence of what Michael just said is ultimately the reason why people survived encounters. Sabine and Lisa?
I just want to say a couple of comments. We do things differently in CHL. If we investigate and say, hey, we are a composite of our growing up and our psychosocial conditioning, I know that I'm prejudiced. But the most important thing is I know what it feels like for someone to be prejudiced against me. And instead of generation after generation to say, well, they were mean to me, I'm going to be mean to somebody else, that's the cycle that we need to break. When someone doesn't understand you or is mean or shows hatred, the definition of hatred is the punishment you give yourself for those people that were mean to you to not understand you. So I'm going to say that again. When someone is prejudiced or mean or shows hatred against you, to continue that, to hate them back, is really punishing yourself for them really not understanding you. In my life, there's three things that come to mind how I have been so prejudiced against my life. I'm 5 foot tall. You walk around on your knees, gentlemen and ladies, and see what it feels like to be 5 foot tall and have somebody treat you equal. I'm a woman. Lots of scenarios. I'm not a guy. It's different. And in medicine, there are so many people that hate doctors. So in my world, I know how awful it is. People don't like me. And I know that they treat me poorly sometimes because they don't understand their experience with doctors, their experience with stupid short people or women in general. Maybe they've had bad relationships with their wife or girlfriends or family members. It's okay. They can treat me poorly. I have boundaries and I treat them compassionately to try to teach them who I really am. I'm not that, what you think. Because if you were a normal, nice person, you would like me. You would think I'm tall enough. You would think that it's nice that I'm a woman, and you would think I'm a good person because I'm a doctor. Not all the prejudice that you may have had because that's how you grew up. That's your experience in life. So I'm challenging you to say when somebody is hateful or hatred to you, don't hate them back, because all that does is punish you for them not understanding who you really are. So reach out to the ones that hate you the most and try to be compassionate to them and explain or not. If the boundary, like Michael says, is these people are very violent and they hate me and they're going to hurt me, you know, just walk away. But the people that might you have that opportunity to show them, demonstrate compassionately who you really are, that might make a difference.
Well, thank you. Very important. We have dialogue about this. You're going to hear lots of perspectives. What you really have to do is investigate your own. Don't believe anything that we say is what Dr. Terence Scripps always told me. Don't believe anything that I tell you. Investigate everything for your own truth. Help understand it yourself. How does it fit into your world? How does it fit into your decision making? And as martial artists, we have an obligation. An obligation is to create peace. We are a martial arts that is for peace. We are a center that is for humane living, all of which that implies that this is some part of our responsibility and accountability to take in and begin to look at. That's why we're not just punching and kicking, but we're understanding all of those things that prevent peace from happening and to begin to look at those things. And that sometimes starts with ourselves right here. So we will have more time for dialogue. We have come to the end of our class today, and we will set up another Zoom class. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but soon. And it'll be a class that'll be helpful by bringing in the underranks, more and more of the underranks. And I will continue to challenge all of those, the gauntlet that Saman and Lisa put forward, which is call people that are not on the Zoom and ask them to get engaged and to be part of that. Call 3 people and to see if you can get them engaged as part of the school. And by doing so, we begin to reach out. This is not about you, it's about us. And so the more us we can make it, the better it is. Appreciate all the work that's going behind the scenes, our re-engagement team and our group that's looking at the understanding of what is that prevents peace, prejudice, bias, and privilege. So thank you very much. Everyone come to attention. Juliet. Investigate things for yourself this week. That's your homework. Juliet, Cognac. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week and happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day.
I'm going to my dad at that bulldog. Tomorrow's Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Michael.